I just shot my new trailer for this YouTube channel, and I talked about how on this channel we learn fundamentally how to overcome hair loss. You know, because that's really what it is. This is a channel about psychology, and it's under the umbrella of hair loss. But this is psychology. But what I want to focus on right now is, I feel, based on my hours and hours of making videos about hair loss, I feel that ultimately so far, I'm seeing 5 types of people who are never going to overcome their hair loss. Because you'll notice in the comments, there's people who thank me on it. I'll get one a day. Nick, thank you for making your videos. Keep doing what you're doing. You are helping me overcome my hair loss. And then there's others who will show up and say, all you ever talk about hair loss, you need to stop. This is boring. This is stupid, right? Why is it that certain people get help from me and others never will? And they just send some kind of profanity-filled insult at me and then they go their merry way. What's the difference between these two people? I feel that so far I'm seeing a pattern, and I just want to share that with you. And if you are relating to one of these 5 things, and maybe you could change that so that you could become one of the people that say, Nick, you're helping me overcome this. I was worried about it until now, and I get it. So let's find out if you're one of these 5 people. And these are in no particular order. These are just based on the comments I've been seeing and who's finding success and who's not. Okay, what's the first one? So let's think of this as the 5 mistakes. If you suffer from one of these 5 mistakes, you're one of the people who's never going to overcome your hair loss fundamentally from within. You're always going to be searching. You're always going to feel empty. You're always going to feel inadequate. So these are the 5 wrong ways of thinking. These are the 5 character traits of someone who's never going to overcome hair loss. You ready? Here we go. Number 1 is to assume that others care as much about your hair loss or more about your hair loss than they actually do. You know, I assure you, however much hair loss you're encountering, if you're anywhere Norwood 1, 2, or 3, maybe even Norwood 4, it's magnified from what you see in the mirror, and it's minimized from what other people see. So that's the first mistake, is to assume that others care as much or more than you do about your own hair loss. They don't. People are judging you on lots of other things, but it's not that. You're magnifying it, they're minimizing it. So that's the first thing to look out for. It's the first thing I want you to be aware of. Because people that assume that everyone else judges them to the same degree or greater about their hair loss, they're never going to overcome their hair loss, because their vision is continually skewed by their own wrong perception of the world. Because it's not about how you see yourself, it's about how the world sees you. That's number 1 mistake. You don't want to be that. Number 2. The number 2 thing is to assume that others don't value you more for who you are as a person. Which, you know, I'm kind of piggybacking off the last one, I admit it. But see, that's the thing. People judge people ultimately for who they are as a person. It may sound like a lame cop-out to say, if you're a nice and caring person, people are going to notice and care about you more than they ever will your hair loss. No guy wants to hear that. He wants, and it's funny because that's the vanity that I think that guys have, that they think that whether they do or do not have hair is going to make them a better likable person, when in reality, being a likable person is actually what people want out of you, not your hair. So as long as you assume that others don't value you for who you are as a person, and instead they're valuing your hair, you're never going to get over your hair loss. Number 3. The number 3 issue, the number 3 character trait that keeps a person from ever overcoming their hair loss is to be emotionally attached to your hair. And I know that's a hard one to overcome, but there are certain people, and I'm one of them, even though I've still got most of my hair, I'm not emotionally attached to my hair. I can lose all my hair tomorrow and I'm fine. I'll buzz it off, I'll shave it off, I'm good to go. I have zero emotional attachment to my hair, just like I've got zero emotional attachment to football, as we all know. There's lots of things I'm not emotionally attached to that a lot of other people are. Once you flip off the breaker switch and you're no longer emotionally attached to your hair, then you're good to go. But as long as you're emotionally attached to your hair, you're never going to overcome your hair loss. In fact, it's only going to get worse. Number 4. The number 4 mistake is to allow others to offend you about anything. As long as you're giving power to other people that they can control your emotions, you're never going to overcome your hair loss because you're too sensitive and emotional of a guy. I'm sorry, but it's true. Okay, let's say you're driving, someone cuts in front of you, or they perceive that you cut in front, and somehow they end up honking the horn or flipping you off, and your blood pressure goes up, your emotions go, you flip them off, you curse them out, whatever. No, you're not going to overcome your hair loss because you have the wrong mentality. You're still allowing other people to emotionally control you. And you say, well, Nick, that's hard. Well, think about all the people who don't emotionally control you. Think of someone who you really, truly don't care what they think, no matter what they do or say about you. What if you thought the way you think about them with everybody, even people who are close to you? It's all about not letting other people control your emotions. Otherwise, it's always going to come back to hair loss, and people, your perception of how they perceive you and your hair loss and how that affects your emotions is going to continue to weigh you down. Here's the last one. The last mistake, the last character trait of people who will never overcome their hair loss. Lastly is a person who ultimately doesn't have anything else to offer other people, like a good personality that makes other people feel appreciated or valued and loved. And we've kind of already covered this, but I just want to tie this up with this last one. Think about this. I saw a bumper sticker one time, and it said, "Goth people are really just," what is it? It's something like goth. It's an easy way to make boring and ugly people seem interesting. Something like that, right? Here's my point. If you don't have anything else to offer other than hair, then of course you're going to be worrying about your hair loss. But on the other hand, if you're an interesting person, if you're a funny person, if you're a caring person who makes other people feel good about themselves and ask questions about them, and you're boosting other people up, they could care less about your hair. Now you're making them feel special and loved. And that's what they actually care about. Or even aside from that, are you a smart guy? Are you talented? Are you skilled? Are you able to make money? These are things that people actually value for. It goes back to the beginning when I said the mistake is to assume that others care as much about your hair than you do, instead of valuing you for the person that you are. So if you've got nothing else going for you other than your hair loss or your ability to maybe play sports, which no one's going to care about by the time you're 23, unless you're one of the very few that makes a career out of it, which you're not. You're not. Let's face it, the odds are you're not. You have to have other things to offer other than your hair. And maybe it's never become this relevant now that you're 18, 21, 23, you're going out of that high school phase, all those things that actually mattered, like hair maybe. And now that you're becoming an adult and you're maturing, you're realizing, maybe you're not realizing until I'm saying it right now, the world is starting to judge you on other things other than your looks. They don't care about your hair, they care about all these other things. So, do any of these 5 things ring true to you? Do they bother you? If they bother you, you're probably someone who's never going to overcome your hair loss, or you're going to say, okay, I see where he's going with that. He's kind of right. So let's do a quick review and then my 10 minutes is up. The mistakes, the 5 mistakes. Number 1, to assume that others don't care, to assume that others care as much or more about your hair loss than you do. That's the first mistake. The second mistake is to assume that others don't value you for who you are as a person. Number 3, to be emotionally attached to your hair. Number 4, to allow others to offend you. And then lastly, to simply just not have anything else other to really offer as a human being other than having hair. I'm here to help you. I'm here to get you through this. I'm here to help you overcome your hair loss. I'm speaking truth to you. But if you're blinded in your preconceived ideas, you're not hearing truth. All you're hearing is lies.